Welcome to a special edition of the Turning Point Dialogues. My name is Marina Ponti, and today we will be talking about youth empowerment through visual storytelling. Something special about today's dialogue is that while we're speaking, millions of people across the globe are taking action to turn it around for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And I hope many more can also join this movement. But joining me here today are two inspiring guests who are empowering young people through visual storytelling. First, welcome Sam Power, co-founder of the Lens on Life project, which is a non-profit organization working in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Jordan, the United States, Cameroon, and soon Iraq, supporting at-risk youth through photography and computer literacy. Welcome, Sam. I'm also delighted to introduce Jeanine Moughrabi. She's the Sustainability Engagement Lead for the Canon Young People Program in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, empowering youth with storytelling skills and tools so they can tackle sustainability challenges in their communities and beyond. Canon is a long-standing partner of the UN SDG Action Campaign, and it is such a privilege to welcome Jeanine. Hi, Jeanine.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So we're here to talk about the power and opportunity of this moment as a turning point for people and for the planet. You both work with young people. So Sam, we'll start with you. What is the current reality for young people in developing regions, and what changes need to take place to truly empower them?
Thanks very much, Marina, and thank you for hosting this wonderful conversation. After working across the world with youth for quite a few years now, we've identified that a real and worrisome skills gap exists, especially as it relates to technology and self-expression through the arts. So we have observed that there's a difficulty, especially in Africa and the Middle East, accessing higher education past the grade level, as well as rampant unemployment. The pandemic has only amplified this, and we're actually getting to a stage right now where we can see some of the youth that are not part of this skills bulge falling victim to crime, exploitative labor practices, and actually falling to the wayside, where those in other parts of the world are actually getting plugged in to a really exciting kind of development when it comes to technology and computer literacy. Many are being left aside in Africa and the Middle East right now. So we find the need to have creative spaces set up with partners in these regions, with organizations that support this kind of initiative to get students in the part of the world that we just discussed into the skills gap, or out of the skills gap that they're currently in.
Thank you, Sam. I mean, you highlighted a very important point about the digital divide and about the growing inequality, particularly also after COVID, between those who are connected, those who have access to education and to resources, and those who don't. So thank you so much. Now let me turn to Jeanine. What are the changes that need to really be put in place?
Well, you've mentioned a good point, Marina. You mentioned that COVID had a part to play in this, and really that's what we want to highlight here. It's a critical moment where we can push change, because ever since the pandemic hit, there's been this higher awareness about these glaring existing gaps of inequality that we have between the regions of our globe, and that's just the reality of the world that we live in, and it's been like that for quite some time. But the point being that this is a critical moment for change because of the awareness. That's really a precursor for everything. So this is where we try to now engage the communities around creative visual storytelling and trying to get them into it and showing them that it has impact. It can teach you skills, it can promote change. So really the way that we can push change is, first we have to show them and engage these communities and sectors by showing them that creative visual storytelling does have value. And we can do that by showing them that by allowing these young people to enter the creative field, first of all, they're going to learn life skills that they will definitely be able to use later on in the future, but also by allowing these young people the ability to express themselves through visual storytelling, they'll be able to capture these different stories and ideas and perspectives that they can communicate and raise awareness about. We just have to give them that platform. So we have to go a step further and give them access to a platform, be it local or global, but really somewhere that they can have access to that wider listening audience, where they can raise more awareness and push for change and push for action. And that way you also give them that potential to have an impact and have a say in their own futures as well, which is very important. So really, in summary, the best way to engage and push for change is to show these communities that creative visual storytelling does have value, it can make a change, and also offering these opportunities in the first place, because in reality, those opportunities are not really present to begin with.
Thank you, Jeanine. I think you mentioned a very important point. It's about the awareness that COVID brought to everyone. I think that the change now, despite the challenging of the context of the inequality or climate crisis or increasing poverty, is that now we have seen, because of COVID, that change is possible and can actually happen very quickly when there is a vision and when there is the will to make it happen. And also the COVID pandemic has shown us the importance of creativity. We had to change everything about our life in a very quick, turnaround of time, and creativity and somehow communication became very important. Where in the lockdown, we were all stuck in our homes, and only through creative ways of working, creative ways of communication, we were able to put forward our agendas. So thank you. I mean, you both talked about education. I mean, in the case of Sam, the lack of education and access, particularly to higher education, and you also mentioned, Jeanine, the importance of young people to be equipped with the tools and the skill and the platform to express themselves. But how you feel we can really address this gap on education, how we can really move things faster forward? Jeanine, you want to start now?
Well, the best way to tackle this is opportunity. We have to give these young people the same and equal opportunities that young people are getting on other ends of the globe. So these opportunities would be anything from education, access to world-class equipment and content, trainings, workshops, upskilling, and so on. So what we really need to do is we need to give them that confidence and that empowerment that these young people desperately need to be able to go out and get into the visual storytelling, capture those important images and those important stories, and of course, giving them that platform that they need to communicate about it. So what we really want to do is we want to inspire them to be able to capture these images. We want to train them and educate them in photography and videography. And then we want to empower them to reach that stage. But really, who better to talk about these topics rather than these young people? Because in reality, these social sustainability issues and other sustainability issues, they are going to impact the at-risk communities first, and they're going to hit them the hardest as well. So really, they're going to be the best advocates for the changes in their lives. We just have to equip them and support them to get there. And as a global corporation, it is our responsibility to support these communities. It's our responsibility to help them get there and get the education and the equipment and opportunities that they need. We're in a position of power, and we really have to push as much as possible. And we're not going to do it on our own. We're not going to get there on our own. It is going to have to be collaborative work between NGOs, governments, global corporations. We're all going to have to work together if we have any hope of delivering large-scale impact on ground.
Thank you, Jeanine. I think you touched on a very important point about the needs to join forces across region, across sector, because if we are to address and hopefully tackle this crisis, we really need to act now together. So Sam, back to you, the same question. What are the steps to really scale up action?
I think, and Jeanine, thank you. Some of your points for me are really important and resonate strongly, especially the need to work with local communities, NGOs, and partners on the ground. I think primarily the creation of a safe physical, and now in the pandemic age, virtual space is absolutely critical to creating, what we've called at Lens on Life, a nucleus for a community to kind of have a creative expression facility in which they can feel comfortable discussing hot button issues, working in the creative space, working with the tools that are provided by major companies, NGOs, and those on the ground to actually, amplify the impact that, we're able to have through the creative process. I think one thing that's really important in developing these spaces, whether they be virtual or physical, like we have and have developed with our partners, is to avoid a cookie cutter approach. Development plays out in many ways. And I think trying to create a one size fits all model for implementation of what we've been discussing is really dangerous. And I think speaking with local communities, working with partners on the ground, especially in this era, is incredibly important. And, one thing to discuss, given the COVID-19 pandemic, is the importance of virtual and distance learning. I think that while a physical space is really important for the creative process and for teaching vocational training, I do think that we have the immense capability right now to leverage a global community, whether that be professional photographers, professionals in youth development, professionals in media, to provide their skill set to a community that otherwise pre-pandemic might not have had access. Many people are very keen right now to volunteer. Many people are really excited to help others in their communities. I think that after creating a safe physical and virtual space, leveraging the global community that we have, whether it be through the UN or through Canon or through the plethora of resources we have, can really provide an amplifying effect on the ground in places like where we're working, and really kind of get students who didn't have opportunities to the stage where they can actually have access to things that are, life-changing.
Thank you both for laying very practical, next step and strategies. Now, I just, we don't have much time, but I really want for you, first Jeanine, and then you, Sam, in a few seconds, give a call to action that people who are watching can take to really support creativity, storytelling, and ultimately, youth empowerment. So, Jeanine, any quick
Sure.
call to action?
First and easiest thing that people can do is bring young people into those important conversations. That way you'll give them that voice and that confidence to communicate. And then also in your daily life, just don't be afraid to try something. The world isn't perfect, but it's always important to try. So if you either want to do something in your personal time or you want to do a social impact project at work, always give it a go. You never know where that impact might reach.
Thank you. Sam, few seconds, call to action.
Yeah, I think from a call to action standpoint, never think that you cannot make an impact. Whether you have an old digital camera lying around or a computer you want to donate, or a friend who might be teaching somewhere in the world, try to get involved. The world has never been more connected than it has been, and people have never felt more comfortable using platforms like we're on right now. So you can make a very large impact without traveling across the world. So reach out to those who understand the space, listen to local voices, as Jeanine said, and be prepared to give, right? Because I think we all right now have the ability to give back to what is in a very exciting time period in history.
Thank you. I mean, these are very tangible and very inspiring action. And last question, but very, very important. You are a source of inspiration for many people, particularly those watching today. But we want to know, what is something that has inspired you to take the journey you are in? So you want to start, Sam?
I think for me, it's the people that I have worked with across the world, from Africa to the Middle East, who have taken so keenly to the very little that we've been able to provide in terms of photography and computer literacy training. When we started, it was a small operation, and we hadn't built anything or worked with our partners to develop any facilities. And looking at a student and speaking to a student who really took on what we were providing with such keen interest. That's the thing that's kept driving us, right? Hearing from them, speaking with them, seeing their skill set progress, seeing them gain access to things that they would not have had they not been involved in training, or at least had access to equipment. That's the true inspiration. It's really powerful. And the work that we've done has only continued because of the voices that have actually expressed to us how much they enjoy some of what we're able to provide.
Thank you, Sam. Jeanine, what inspired you?
Well, very much what Sam said. I've had very similar experiences, especially with the point where how little you give, but you see that makes such a massive impact. But I did have a specific moment really not too long ago, just a few months back, where it really inspired me to push harder and expand the impact of our program. So we ran a workshop with young people not too long after lockdown. And we had a young girl who was about 11 or 12 years old in the workshop. And at one point she turned around and she said that I didn't know that we had the option of pursuing a career or a passion after education. I thought our only path was to get married and raise a family after this. So that really gets you, it hits you. You do these programs to support these young people, but you rarely have that privilege to see that moment and access that moment where you've impacted a young person or their life or just their perspective. So it's a huge privilege, and it really pushes you to work harder and just try and expand the program and its impact as much as you possibly can.
Thank you, Jeanine. I think this very inspiring story on gender equality, which is a very critical issue that we all need to tackle together, is the conclusion of our conversation today. So thank you again for joining us. I hope you will join the global mobilization, which is taking place now, and join the movement if you're watching from home, wherever you are, and register your action at act4sdg.org. So please join the movement. Thank you.